Hey, you there? Hello? Hey, Drew. Uh, I think you're muted. Or my oh, there you
There we
go.
go. Now I got my right mic.
Hey, so I actually want to talk to you today about the reseller program, the shop, and some other things. And so I wanted to get. It can be after this thing.
Yeah,
But I
let's
was gonna
set a
tell,
meeting and talk about that since this is like a public call, but
yeah,
absolutely.
That's what I was gonna tell you. So after this thing, I've got to go on another call, but I'm gonna join you. I was just gonna listen to all this stuff, but I keep meaning to email you today, last couple of days. But I want to see if I set up a time that we can. I'll email you here during this meeting and set up a time where you and I could talk about some of that stuff because I have some thoughts and I want to get moving right now, especially with Christmas happening. Because so cool. I'll be back on here a little bit. I gotta go jump on this other meeting, but I'll be back on this one here in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, and if not, that's fine. I wanted to tell you something else too. We're gonna start doing um like we're gonna move our Tuesday stuff to go Friday and do kind of like Friday maker hour, like hangout time type stuff.
Perfect.
So then this will be
Perfect.
like a beginner one, and then we can have like hangout time where we can talk about stuff like that and whatnot. Because I really
That's
like
perfect.
talking to you, but I want to have a spot where like just for brand new beginners
Yep.
can come and like join. And it's great if you guys wanted to help and like join and help beginners out. But I want to have a time where just we can hang out and shoot the shit and talk about making
Yeah.
whatever we're making and building and development and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, so that works out good because honestly, that's one of the things I wanted to kind of do is just start listening on these and help if we can. But most of the part, just good idea because I do think there's a huge need for like some services. So I'm curious what kind of questions new people are having and stuff like that. So it's been interesting hearing people, even people that have experience with software, like that other lady that was on last week. It's
yeah,
good to hear that. A lot of users might not even have that much experience. So, anyways, okay, well, I'll be back on here a little bit. I got to jump on this other
I
call.
just was letting you know. Yeah, man. All right. See ya.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll see you a bit.
See ya. Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me? EA bro? You there? Well, you can use the chat too if you want. Hey, Elijah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Doing fantastic, thank you.
Awesome.
Hey, I was gonna ask a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure thing. What's up?
I got the Maker 2, the M2, last week or so, and my problem that I'm having is I have it set up. I have the exact middle of my waist board measured out, and when I go to the right all the way across, it stays level at that point. But when I go to the left, it raises, and I went about just over 2 feet to the left, and it raised about a quarter of an inch from the center line. Also, when I cut a square, a 1 foot square the first time, it was just right off the center of the board, and it cut it perfectly square. But when I did another cut to the left on the waist board, and it was tilted. So I don't know how to exactly to fix those issues.
Yeah, sure thing. So there's a couple things we can try. So first, when you're moving and cutting in different parts, are you using the work offset or setting a new home?
I've set the work offset at I haven't reset that, but when another thing, let me say this as well, sorry. After I went left and it was off 3/4 of an inch. When I hit the home button, it went back higher than I had it set originally at home. So I don't know if that ties into what I was saying.
Yeah, so it could be a couple things. So first off is to always use the work offset. So that center of your board, that's good that you got that you measured that out to be in the exact center. And you always want to just leave your home right there in the exact measured center of your waist board. Because if you change your home to somewhere else, all the calculations are based off of that for the triangulation. It's pretty weird. So using the work offsets is great. So that's the first thing that we check. And then number two is to make sure that your frame itself is level. So is the top of your waist board level and the top of your top beam level?
Yeah, that was an issue I had at first, and I fixed that. It was about a 1/4 inch to just between 1/4 and a half an inch off, and I corrected that. But I'm still having the same issue. I didn't know if it was a issue with the tension on the chains that could be the problem or not.
Probably not, because if it's tilting, that'd be the first thing I would check is the work offset, and then the second thing would be making sure it's level. So you made sure that it's level all the way across, so that's good. Yeah. And then they have to be level with it themselves too, and it needs to be at least 10 inches from like the bottom of the waist board to these brackets right here, because you need at least 18 inches for your motor offset, which is
okay, because
the chain.
My motor offset, I think, is at 15 inches. Okay. I think that's what the problem is. So if I just raised my top board to be higher, it would.
Yeah. So the new version of the guide that we just got, it kind of explicitly states that, and we've noticed some weird little calibration stuff. So like my little frame, when I built it, I had to raise mine and change it too, because if it doesn't have at least that much distance between it, then it will cause issues in the calculations, because it needs to be able to make 2 right triangles, like when it's moving around. So it needs to be at least that distance away. So that could be something that could be causing it too. So yeah, check that top beam. And then the third thing that I would say is make sure that your waist board isn't bowed. So do you have another board across the back to making it not bowed?
What I did was I used I made a frame, and I used 4 2x4 2x4s. I cut them in half. So I have 4 legs across the middle. And I think one issue is I attached it from the back to those boards. That might be causing it to be, because I have problems where my router will go across and it won't catch in spots. Like it won't start drilling. It'll catch in some spots it cups over.
That probably is something to do with your waste board then. Yeah. So having like a beam across the back, and that new version of the guide too, we've got that in there where it's like to put that support beam across the top. And then we actually have 4 legs too. So you have like 2 extra legs in the middle, and then attach those to the waste board, and then the beam across the top. So you have like more ways to kind of pull that down, because I mean, like all plywood and MDF isn't going to be perfect. Like if you find a perfect piece of plywood, like I want to go to your Home Depot. Like
I worked at Lowe's for 5 years. I know there's nothing that's not perfect at all.
Okay, yeah. So that I would say that could be it too. And make sure that it's going good before you use your router too, because like different RPM speeds and stuff like that, going too slow can or too fast can kind of pull up or down by tiny increments too, just depending on your material. So, yeah, like check and make sure it's going good when you're moving it around before you move to that next step.
Gotcha.
And we've got a new version. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, we have a new version of Makerverse. It's in beta right now that should be out in the next few weeks. And that simplifies that calibration process, and it kind of walks it through in some different ways. So that can kind of help with that too.
Gotcha. And then I guess one question that's tied to what you already said. Would you recommend using MDF other than plywood? Because I got a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. But the thing is, it's in my shop and it's not insulated very well. So I'm afraid moisture will get into it. But would MDF still be the number one thing to use, really?
I'm not sure. I know most people use MDF. I use plywood. And I know a lot of people use MDF and because it's softer and it's a little bit flatter. So I know that a lot of people do. I'm not really sure about the moisture content. I don't know enough about different types of wood like that to know if how much moisture MDF would absorb, to be honest. I'm not really sure. So I think you're probably fine with the plywood as long as you just make sure that it's flat, again, as flat as possible. Because it's 4x8, like it's a robot that's like going across like that whole thing. So like tiny little bows, like little bit can just cause the bit to kind of move in and out. So
gotcha.
That's what
I appreciate it. And then the last question I have for you, on my Z-axis. So when I was calibrating everything, I went from the center of my board, I went up 300 millimeters. And what I wanted to do was I just wanted to drill a tiny hole exactly where that was. So I just lowered the Z-axis. And so I lowered the router into the wood. But as I lowered it, the belt gear on the back, instead of it pushing into the wood, it just raised up on the screw. Is that supposed to happen?
The opposite direction. Do you have the 472.5, I believe it is?
And the 10. Yeah, I can't remember what number it's on, but the 102 or something like that.
Yeah. To switch your Z-axis. So you did do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And are you using easel as your G-code generator or another G-code?
I'm using the easel as the G-code generator, but when I put in the Makerverse, that's when I was using Makerverse to calibrate everything. So
so with easel, you have to have that swap in there, so it can kind of like swap back and forth. So it should be like, is your motor all the way plugged in?
Yeah, it is. I've checked all that.
That can cause weird stuff too if it's not all the way plugged in.
Yeah. So, and I also when I start the cuts, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or if it just takes a long time. The Z-axis will move, the router will move back away from the wood, move into spot, and then I feel like as it's going around, it's not digging in any further as it makes its second lap and third lap and whatever.
Yeah, it sounds like you might need to work on some Z-axis calibration, and that's in there's a kind of a more advanced version of that in the beta Makerverse as well. And there's actually one of the calibrations where it goes around and drills holes in it, wholly calibration, and then you measure the distance between those little holes, and it does that exact thing in the beta. But if you upgrade to the beta, though, just know that you have to reflash your firmware, and we haven't made the videos and stuff for that yet because it's still in beta. But that's on our GitHub, though, if you're interested in going to look at it. But yeah, I would say that probably has something to do with your Z-axis. And you can find a place to measure, like when you're measuring your Z-axis, instead of trying to measure like the bit as it's coming down, and of course I don't have my router on here, you can measure like on another spot, like a distance between two spots as it's moving. So maybe the distance between like your roller bearing carriage and like the router clamp. and so you can measure that height as it's moving around, and that'll make it easier for you to kind of get it tuned like just right for your bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I will try that. And if I could make a suggestion for the Makerverse thing, as just a new user, is the Z-axis and the just the jogging the thing around the board, having different measurements for the Z, because I've several times now had it on 300 millimeters and tried to hit home on this, and it wants to go all the way off, so I got to unplug my machine and real quickly. That's the only, I love everything so far. That's the only issue I've had with it, because I'm too dumb to remember to go back and change it.
I've made that mistake too. It's fine. Yeah, I appreciate your feedback with that. And we've heard that before too, to kind of like cut that down. It has to have some sort of measurement in it, and there can't be stops and stop switches, because the way that G code the way it's made is like you send a command and it's like walk over there 100 feet, and if there's a cliff over there, like it doesn't know. You can't be like no wait, there's a cliff. You already told it to walk, so it's just gonna go. So it already is, that command is already set in the board. So there's no way to stop it without like unplugging and stopping the whole thing. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, we've heard that before too. I appreciate you saying that, so we can cut down on that Z. Cause yeah, even if it was down to where you could only go like by an inch is like the biggest, then that would help to make sure you don't have any like, catastrophic trying to pop up and, pulling the lead screw out or something like that. So
gotcha. And then, actually, I have one more question. If you don't if you have time.
Oh, of course. That's what we're here for.
So on easel, if I'm using the center of the wasteboard as my center for my easel to start, how exactly would I be able to use the whole 4x8 sheet to go back and cut stuff? Because if I'm using on easel, it just uses that upper right quadrant of the X and Y, right?
Right, and you can move that around, so you can change what quadrant is in, so you can kind of move the quadrants and where you want to go.
Can.
Yeah, it's in that little box that's in where your measurements are, and then you can change the size of your material in the other window. So like the window on the left, if you click next to the cut settings, then it kind of changes what quadrant it's in. And then you can change the size of your material on the right, so you can have a big like 4x8 frame. Yeah,
that one I've done that part. I didn't notice I could move it from the price of the wood, but that makes okay.
And you can move it too, like, so it's kind of like picking where 0 is, right? So like if 0 is going to be right in that bottom corner on easel, well then you can drag your model around and make sure that it's going to be in like the top corner, and then you can like use your work offsets to make sure that that's where it's going to go too. So if you wanted to, you could just keep easel the same, and then put your material in there, and then manually move the work offset to a different part of your board, and then set your new home, because it's just going to go where 0 is, where it thinks 0 is. If your offset, let's say you have a cut in the left corner and you want to cut in the right, the same thing. Well, then you could just jog it over 300 millimeters and then set a new work home, and then start your cut again, and then it would cut it out like there on that side. So that's kind of a workaround too that you could use, that I think would probably be easier than trying to like set up a whole bunch of stuff in easel, is just utilizing those work offsets to kind of move it to different parts, because then you can use every single bit of your material, and you're not cutting out one thing and then having to put a whole new board up there.
Yeah, I gotcha. Okay, well, thank you so much for your help, and hopefully I can get my machine running, because I've had it for a little while now, and it's been a hassle. I've got many a headache trying to get this stuff figured out.
It's very DIY, and I mean, so it's part of the fun of like putting it together. So I appreciate that you're not getting too frustrated, because I mean it's a little involved to get it going, but once you get it good, then you're rocking and rolling. And have you contacted our support or sent us any messages about it?
I think I've just done a lot of questions on the Facebook grouping.
Okay,
I've done a lot of questions on that. I've done several. So I got started up with the questions on there, but then I saw you had this Zoom call stuff going on, so I figured this would be the best situation.
Yeah, for
go
sure.
to the mastermind.
Yeah, you bet. So if you want to like ever send us a Facebook message like directly to our company, or like send us an email, support@makermade.com, and then we can get a ticket going, and then we'll work with you until you get going. Like we will work with you until it's working, just so you know. Like we're here.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate everything you've done. I love this product, and I'm hoping I can get it to work for myself. I see what everybody else is doing with it. I just
It
want to
does
get to
work.
that point
It just
too.
takes practice.
Yeah, I know it works. I'm just too dumb to figure it out apparently.
No. It took me a bit too. Like it took me a bit to get my head around it as well. So no
Yeah.
worries.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, but I really appreciate
Bye,
it.
man. Yeah, let us know if you need any help. See you, Liza.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one. Bye.
You too. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Drew.
How's it going, man?
Very good.
Your cut's been going all right?
Actually, I haven't done any cuts since last Thursday.
Me neither. I've been working on 3D printing like crazy.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, good. I haven't gotten into 3D printing yet, but I just have too many new things already, but that's coming soon.
Right on, yeah. So we're gonna add a new thing starting in December. We're gonna do like a hangout every Friday where makers can just like get together and hang out, and then somebody from Maker Made, one of us, will be in there just to kind of hang out and talk about projects and whatever, like open like session time basically.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah.
And try to get it kind of like a networking thing too. So we're gonna do it in the afternoon so more people can join.
That sounds great. Yeah. Yeah, I joined here really kind of like this week to just kind of just be here and listen if anyone, had any things come up that were similar to problems I've had, or just to learn, and hang out. Yeah. So
More than welcome to. Absolutely. More than welcome to hang out.
Awesome. Thank you.
I put a new version of the guide out. Have you looked at the new guide? Like your feedback and stuff. I put a bunch of stuff in there that we talked about.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, cool. No, I haven't looked at it yet. I'll have a look. Yeah. I'm trying to remember now. I think maybe I did do a new calibration since we last talked, since last Thursday. And with, I'm using the beta.
The beta, right?
And yeah. And I think I got it really well dialed. I haven't cut anything with it yet since, but it told me when it finished that my board was 0.02 millimeters offset in one direction, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's 3D printing quality right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I can't remember what it said for what it calls the accuracy, which if Chris joins this, I will want to ask him a question about that. But well, my question would be, so say it says, I'm trying to remember, but I think it might have been 2.1 millimeters. And then it says, your machine is extremely accurate or something like that. Your accuracy is 2.3 millimeters. Well, that in order for that to, I think, really make sense, there needs to be some kind of qualifier, to explain what do you mean by 2.3 millimeters. For example, you could interpret that to mean if I tell it to move 1 millimeter, it's going to move somewhere between negative 1.3 and 4.3 millimeters, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It could also mean if you tell it to move the maximum distance of 8 feet, it's going to move, 8 feet plus or minus 2.3 millimeters. And it's probably obvious what it really means, but I'm assuming and not really sure.
Yeah. I've used the beta version once now, so I haven't gone through it a whole lot. But do you like it better than the previous version?
I like it for the most part better. Definitely. I mean, it found that when I first ran it, that my board was skewed, so that it was like counterclockwise tilted.
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool that it could identify that, logically. And I had a little trouble understanding, and at first what it was telling me to do. Once I understood it and I did it, it's a good process that it's walking you through like a wizard, on a
Mhm.
PC.
Yeah, like through all the different tabs, like going across.
Yeah. The only like criticism I might have is that it's very, just by doing it that way, it's very strict. That it's hard to tell what you can get away with. Like, say you go through the whole thing, and now you have the first like 2 or 3 tabs of your wizard are good. You know what your dimensions of your board are. What else are you looking for? Your offsets and blah blah blah.
Offset.
Yeah. Or even say you got as far as you're happy with your z-axis now, but you want to go back and you want to do another precision calibration or something, the kind of like final step.
Mhm.
It's a little bit hard to figure out what it's okay to do, to kind of like just fake it through the steps to get to that point.
Yeah, so like which step should you go back and change or something like that? Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the tabs are independent of one another. So if you go to a different tab inside beta, hi Terry, if you go to a different tab and you apply it, it won't apply to the other tab. So like if you change something and then go to another tab and then change something else and then say apply to that other tab, it loses your tab before. Like all the different ones are like separate states basically. So they don't remember across. So if you needed to go back in there to go back to calibration, then you could go all the way to Z and then like just change that one if you want to.
Right.
Yeah, we should definitely have a little bit of an explainer in there. And that's the main thing that we're doing now. It's in the process of getting in the Windows Store and whatnot. And the main thing that we're doing now is the semantics like that. So this is really helpful. These things about like where it's what does this mean and where is that going, to try to get more explainers in that beta version, because we want it to try to be like as easy as possible for you to kind of understand what's going on and to get your machine calibrated. So awesome.
Yeah, it's I definitely heading in the right direction. I think it needs maybe a little more explanation, a little more fine tuning. The thing with measuring the chains by connecting the 2 chains together and doing that part is, well, first of all, it was a little surprising. I was like, oh, wait, I'm doing what here?
From the middle of the sprockets, you mean? Like that one?
You take the 2 chains and you connect them with, you take the pins out of the sled that hold the chains to the sled. You pull those pins, and then so you remove your sled, and then you take the chains and you stick the pins in the 2 ends of the chains to connect them, right? And then you jog it to pull it tight. And then that helps tell tell you how long the chains are, I think. And then you let it come down and watch that the pin stays in the center. And so that was just a little surprising. I was like, wait, am I really understanding what I'm supposed to do here? So I think, having a video walking you through that will be a tremendous comfort,
Yeah, so I'm going to make a bunch of videos as soon as the beta is live and we've got like all the little things fixed. Then I'm going to start making videos, and Chris is going to make videos. And so we'll have like all those different features, but we don't want to make them and then something change and then that video that's out there is wrong. So we're waiting until it's finalized, which is why it's still in beta. So we can like take feedback and change things and stuff like that. Because once it gets in the App Store, which will be in the next couple of weeks, then all the updates will be within the app, and then everything, it'll be like a solid state in there. So once you get your firmware flash and then uninstall the old Makerverse and install the new one, then you're good to go. And you can even do updates in the future. We're going to have it so you can even update your board through Makerverse and all that kind of stuff. So like everything will be inside of Makerverse, but just kind of getting all those moving parts together, it's a bunch to get going.
One other kind of it's not something that I could see, changing or fixing, but it's a little awkward, is that what you're using, and you're trying to get within a millimeter or a tenth of a millimeter or something, but you're doing it by measuring the distance between the edge of the sled and the edge of your board, right? You're saying,
yes,
how close am I to my board, right?
Yeah.
But it's a round sled with a nicely rounded over edge, right? And so, just by, using some good technique and, a
good, like how to use your caliper to get that done. Yeah, for sure.
It can, you can do it. I mean, it's all good, but, I think that's an area that it just feels like, am I really doing the right thing? Because getting to tenths of a millimeter this way feels a little like, whatever, kind of.
Yeah, because you don't want to round. That's one of the big things. You want to like get it as exact as possible. Because if you start rounding numbers, that's when it starts rounding and things start spiraling out.
I was kind of thinking if you made a little jig of some sort that you just like attached to your sled. So
like maybe something you could 3D print that would like move around.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That reminds me, a few weeks ago, I remember somebody on this call asked you, but I think it got lost in various different discussions, or I just didn't hear the answer. But I heard somebody just pipe up, "Hey, Drew, do you have any suggestions for useful things to 3D print for use with your M2?"
Yeah, so like dust collection.
Cool.
Yeah, so we got dust collection, so to fit different hoses. And I made one, and then there's a couple other really good ones that are in the marketplace to help out. And I honestly have been really busy developing the 3D printer and haven't developed a whole lot of other things for the M2 that are like 3D printing focused. Another one though is a guide for your bit to make sure that it's in the exact center and of the sled, because that's super important that your router is in the exact center of the circle. So that's something that Chris made actually, to make sure that that rounded jig is there to make sure that you always have your bit lined up. We have those two. And then another one, I've seen some things to like make sure the chains don't ever pop off, or to kind of some chain maintenance type of stuff, where it's like where the chains are going to go to like hold the spring up or something like that as they're kind of like moving around and some things like that. But that's definitely something I want to work more with and get going. So we just got a shed too that's like a full-size frame too, that I'm going to start doing these in December. I'll be in there and working and doing stuff from that shed. And once I'm in there, then yeah, and the 3D printer gets launched, then I have more time to work on some designs and stuff like that. So there's definitely some stuff that's popping up in the marketplace that's really cool. So if you have any suggestions for anything, it's like upgrades, we're always looking for ways to improve the M2 for sure.
Cool. Well, that would be my
Questions or anything?
suggestion. If somebody could come up with a way, I can't picture it right now, but some sort of like a little needle on a thing that clips to the top of your sled, and I don't know, somehow that you can use to take your calibration measurements more accurately, to use as a reference point or something.
Yeah, like something to put your caliper in to be able to measure it from. Yeah. Because it is kind of like if you don't mark right where your bit stops, because like what I like to do is move the bit down, or like I push on the sled to kind of indent it a little bit, and then you can measure that part where like your bit actually went into the wood itself. So like to try to like get that exact spot.
Right.
So yeah, I think something like that to help you with measuring would be good, because you could even like have it on top, and then you're not trying to measure exactly where the bit is. You're measuring like on the same spot on the sled every time. Even if it's on the side or whatever, it's always on that like one spot. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, it sounds like maybe you haven't done the calibration procedure for the new beta. Oh, okay, good. Because what you just said is what you just alluded to, something that's a little bit that caught me off guard too. That was everything I've been doing by using a say 1/8 inch end mill bit in my router and getting it positioned, and with my MDF, with my 96 millimeter grid of 3 millimeter holes, I have a perfect, setup for calibrating things that way, right? But the way the new calibration procedure works, I was expecting it to go to bring the bit to the edge of the board, of the waste board, but that's not what it's doing, right? It's bringing the round edge of the outside of the sled to the edge of the board.
Yeah, so exactly. So the only time I've used the beta was with a Maslow, and some of the Maslows have square frames. So then that's part of the reason why it's like moving to the edge to find like the edge of it. So I haven't gone through the M2 and the beta yet, kind of intentionally, because I want it to be like ready to go, and then like hit it with fresh eyes. But that's something that I've thought about doing. That I will do like over the Thanksgiving break, is I want to play with the beta and kind of go through it and go through that whole process and like familiar myself with it. But yeah, that's great to hear that you like the beta version better though, for sure.
Can you hear me, Drew?
Yeah, Terry. Yeah.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I got confused on the Central Time. I'm on Pacific Time, and
oh, you're fine. Yeah. Was it like 9? Is it 9:44 your time?
It is. What time is it? It's 9:44. Yeah. Hey, I wanted to. Your videos that you do are really good. You're like one of the few people that I can watch and go. You bring people along really well. So I really appreciate when you do make those videos. They helped out a lot. I just got my Maslow. It kicked my butt setting it up.
Stuff.
So the thing that threw me the most was I go on YouTube and I look at the videos on people setting it up, and I'm reading the directions, and I'm looking at all these videos with the old version of Makerverse. So I'm trying to follow along that direction, and then I got into the scaling, and then when I went in the directions, it says to download. It has a link, and it takes me to download Makerverse. And I didn't realize that the Makerverse that I was trying to download was an old version of it. And I ended up using, Rob had helped me from YouTube and told me, yeah, I should go to GitHub and get the latest version of Makerverse and use that instead, because it's easier. And it was a lot easier.
The beta?
So that was one of my biggest confusions of getting finding the link to the correct version, and then the directions didn't really follow along anymore with. So I have this new version and no directions of you kind of really how to use it.
Was it an M2 or a Maslow?
Yeah, the M2.
Okay, yeah. So the M2, unfortunately, what happened is our shipping got ahead of the guide. So we made some changes in it, and then there was miscommunication of when the factory was going to actually release it. So they started to ship before we had the new content for it. So actually, like there's a new version of the guide out now that has like the directions with the rails attached and like how to properly put that together. And then I'm actually editing those videos this week too, to like finalize those videos that go along with it as well. And then, yeah, the newest version of Makerverse, one of the things that we've tried to do with the new version of the guide is to go to the resources page. So then you can always find the newest version of the guide. So that's why those links, that should be now to where they send you to the resources, the M2 resources page. So then you can always make sure you get like the most recent stuff, because just the way that stuff is made, sometimes it's weeks or even a couple months before like something goes through the process of change and then goes through ready. So then like we like hear feedback from the community and then change something, and then it's a month and a half before that actually changes. So it's like kind of like that middle area, since we're still pretty close to when it launched. So I appreciate your patience and like going through it and figuring it out. So are you using the beta version?
I don't know what I'm using.
Did it make you go to the edges of your board?
Yeah.
Okay, so then if it did that, then you're on the beta version. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Which takes me to my question of setting up the precision of the machine. Is that how I do it? Is by going to the edges? There isn't a calibration of measuring like from the center out 500 millimeters and adjusting it that way? Or is all the precision of getting your machine dialed in based on that last setting in that Makerverse that says you have the precision, which drills the holes in it, and that's what I'm using. Well, I've used all of them or both of them. So
yeah, as I said, I told Mike, I haven't gone through the M2 calibration in the beta yet. I'm not in the beta process of all the stuff that's going through. But I know the older version, it did have you move it, and then you would basically just measure your X and Y and go back and forth. But we found that there was just inaccuracies in that, and it was difficult to figure out exactly where your problem was. So that's why that whole new calibration setting, where it's those series of tabs, that's why that was developed with Chris in the community, to kind of figure out, well, here, if we do these different things, then it will change the equations to be able to make the right triangles that it needs to make. Because it's basically working off of like two right triangles, but it needs to have like its endpoints and where it is, so it knows where it is in relation, if it's in the right quadrant or the left quadrant, to where it knows where the sled is. So that's why it has you go and do the Holy calibration, and then go to the edge calibration too, and make sure that you're like the measuring between the motors, it's from the center of the sprockets and stuff. So you're not trying to do the 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock stuff, and then trying to just get those essential measurements that you need. Making sure that your top beam is level and your wasteboard is level, and just like kind of going through those steps to make sure that you knock out like, here's the essential things that you need to focus on, and then you can make your modifications on whatever your frame is like outside of that, and kind of move around. So yeah, it's like that whole process, every time you put in a new thing. So like when you put something in one of those tabs and then say accept, and then you go to the next tab, every time you do that, it's like saving a new value for your calibration and going through all of it. It's like step by step by step by step.
Sure. My last newbie question is the working with easel. Is easel supposed to control because there's a spot in easel that says cut, and it doesn't seem to connect to the Arduino. Am I only supposed to use Makerverse in actually controlling the machine, or does easel control the machine? Or
easel can't control this one. Easel is made, they can control like Shapeokos and some other CNC machines, but it's a G-code generator. So you make your G-code in easel and then export it, and then use that in Makerverse. And in the future, we want to integrate that step into future iterations of Makerverse too, so you don't have to do that. But right now, Easel is free, and it's the easiest one to like get your file in and then convert it to the G code that you want. You can set your bit settings and all those other features that are in there. So yes, you do have to use Easel, but you can't control your M2 from Easel.
Okay, that's what I thought, and that's what I did. I generated the G code and imported it in, and it worked fine. I cut a 12-inch square and then measured it to see how accurate it was, and you know, I was spot on that. So, but it was just, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, there's other G code generators too, like Fusion 360. Dale, have you used other ones? I've only used Fusion and Easel. Have you used other ones?
Just Easel for quick jobs, and then there's a handful of Fusion things that I've done. There's actually a guy on YouTube that has a really cool in-depth.
Oh yeah. Let me find that link real quick. Yeah, I forgot about that link. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just used SketchUp, and I created a file, and I'm getting ready to try that out.
Personally, I think SketchUp is way too convoluted and not intuitive.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I just saved a surface and then converted it, and
Yeah.
And I think I haven't tried it yet, but I think it's going to work. Because then what I did is I saved the surface in SketchUp, and then I copied it into Easel, and then I had Easel work it out.
Yeah, SketchUp works really well. I agree with Dale. Like SketchUp works really well for like architectural stuff, but even like 3D printing and things too. Since it's made to do like architectural rendering, it's hard to do like small precise projects and things like that. So it can add some steps. You have to make sure you have the correct thicknesses in the walls when you're 3D printing, and do some other like small tweaks and fixes.
Yeah, I printed a handheld meter from SketchUp on my Ender 5 Plus, and it worked perfectly. It worked out great.
Awesome.
Well,
That's good then. Yeah. Okay. Here I found this video. So here is throw in the chat for you. Whoop. There you go.
Is it the one by Jay Tand, or is it a different one?
This is one by Nick. Yeah. So this is Nick Barros's.
I need to add that one. Chat. I'm on my phone. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're fine. Yeah, so I put it right there in the chat, so you can click on that, and that'll kind of walk you through Fusion. So Nick's one of the mods in our owners group.
I have one more question on this new setup with the Maslow 2. It has a spring tensioning system on it, and I've had when I was setting it up, I had both nails at different times rip out from the wood when the Maslow went down to both corners of the machine. So yep. I ended up getting rid of it. It just seemed like there was too much tension pulling on that spring when it got stretched all the way out. So I ended up getting rid of the spring and just using a weight system to support. That seemed to work great.
On the non 15-foot chain, if you go to the corners, it's gonna do that. If you want, I can go run downstairs real quick. I need to get this to Drew because it's a different measurement that allows it to work with the short chains and still actually not pull.
What did you say? It was like 9 inches in and then like an inch from the top, I think.
I think so. Let me go check.
Something like that. Yeah. Because I was going to test that in the shop after Thanksgiving too on the full frame, because since mine's a 4x4, I can't really test all the stuff on it because it's like a non-standard one. But so Terry, those chains, the reason that the nails are in there is so that if the springs do go, it gets really stretched out, then it won't break your frame. Because if they had like bolted in there or something like that, it could like rip your frame apart if it gets to the end. So then the nails pop out as kind of like fail safes a little bit. And you can use like a nail, like the old system used to use bungee cords and weights, but then the bungees would stretch out over time. So then the spring is kind of like that middle ground, but you can kind of move around where the nail is. It doesn't have to necessarily be in the exact spot. as long as you have good tension on your chains when it's moving around. Yeah, like Dale's measuring right now.
6
How far
inches.
is that in?
6 in, 1 down.
Okay, 6 inches and then 1 down. Yeah, so his is like closer to the edge, so then you can see like his spring doesn't have tons of tension that's on there. So yeah.
So it's 6 inches from where to where?
If you're
6
doing the
inches.
normal 2-spec of the manual, of the build manual with the normal chains, the not long chains, 6 from the 10-foot, right? So you're on a 10-foot, not a 12. Right?
Yeah.
So 6 inches from the outside. Just so basically what it does, instead of being way out here,
Right, which is where
which what
mine was.
happens is when the triangulation happens, your idler ends up being like level and it drips it out. So what I did was you move it to here so that by the time you get to your furthest corner, your idler is sitting right about here, just barely enough to
I was just
not
gonna ask that.
rip
Yeah.
it.
So the other chain though, they don't interfere. They're not like rubbing against each other or anything when it's cutting.
No, it actually it goes to I think the most I've ever seen is it's basically like, you know, half an inch from the other chain. Ever.
Okay.
It's
That's
never
awesome.
touched.
Yeah, so we'll test that and pretty soon and see how that's going. Because yeah, the new version of the guide, I have it to where it kind of explains just that process of the tension is the main thing that you're going for. So those, like some numbers, this is what makes this kit really hard. Some numbers like have to be perfect, and then other ones you can kind of play with for your own design. So trying to make call outs to which of those numbers are perfect, and that was something that Mike brought up in the training several times ago, is like, try to do that really well in our guides and our new videos that are coming out. Is like, these are the most important numbers and the most important things, and then you can kind of do your own stuff around them. Just know that these are like the constants that are important. So
That makes sense.
have you cut anything yet, Terry?
Not yet. I'm hoping to cut some stuff today. I just, like I said, I cut my 12-inch square to test everything, and I feel like I'm now able to cut some stuff after 4 days of building and getting it set up.
Yeah, it's a process. We're just trying to work on ways, and that's why we love to hear your feedback and stuff too, just to make it easier to get set up faster so you can get to making projects. That's our goal. So
yeah. The other thing that I really love, when I stumbled upon your Zoom meeting here, I think what you're doing here on this Zoom for people like me that are just starting out and being able to ask questions direct is a godsend. So thank you for that. Hopefully you'll keep it up, because I'll probably be tuning in every week.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. So what I was just telling Mike, and then I told Drew too. So we're doing this one is for beginners. And then we want to have another hangout one that's going to start in December. That's going to be on Fridays. And that's for like after you've kind of gone through this and you're working on projects and stuff like that. It's kind of a maker networking hangout type of thing. So it's similar to this, only it's going to be in the afternoon on Friday. So at like a different time. So you could join this one and that one if you wanted to, or just kind of have those multiple times where we can kind of get together, and then you can talk with other makers about projects and things like that. And then we're going to add, as soon as the 3D printer gets launched, then I'm going to start doing 3D printer trainings in the mornings on Thursdays. So like before this one would be 3D printing, and then after this would be CNC. And so Thursday would be like Thursday training day. And then have like the hangout session for people that are working on projects and kind of get gone through that and they've got it all set up. And then, you know, they're maybe having some ongoing issues and tips and tricks and talking about development and networking and learn about each other's projects and posting on the marketplace, and just like anything goes, just like hangout Zoom. So
yeah, that's great. Cause I've dove into the Maker, the M2, the 3D printing, and I also have my vacuum form table up and running. So I'm jumped all in with all different types of things that I'm, you know, the 3D printing is all new to me, and the CNC is all new to me. So I'm starting from knowing nothing.
Yeah, well, welcome to digital manufacturing.
Yeah.
I don't even have a vacuum table. That's awesome.
Yeah, I made it. Yeah, I made it myself.
It's
So
like the kind of like the tested one where they just you pull this just sheet across and you like pull it down.
Well, it's got a big handle on it that pulls down. I have a video coming out soon for it.
Cool. Okay.
And I sell kits to build your own also.
There was a really cool company that was doing the same thing. They were selling kits. They gave you like the basic for the heater boards, and they give you pre-spaced coils and a template for spacing the coils. And I think it was a 3 or 4 series coil set. And then a friend of mine picked up one, and the company's no longer in business. Their website.
No, he still are. They're under workshop publishing, and that's where I bought my first set of coils from, is from them. And they still, I bought the book To Build Your Machine 20 years ago, and
Yeah.
because someday I knew I wanted to build it, and I just got around to building it, and I ended up reaching out to him, and it's the same guy who built the book, and he's still selling the
Does he have the
coils and the template and the book.
This build stuff, is that it?
Yeah, because I tried finding all that info because my friend's having me. So we're building a one that was actually like kind of modified from the original.
Yeah, I think it's called Workshop Publishing, and
Workshop Publishing.
Yeah, I just put the link in there, buildstuff.com, and it's
Got it.
Workshop Publishing.
Sweet.
yeah, he's helped me out a lot when I started building it, and I made some major modifications to what they have in the plans to suit
Yeah, this
me.
is the tested one, I think.
Yeah.
Adam Savage is like on the front on the homepage.
Oh yeah, it's the same one.
I think it's like the only homebrew one, isn't it?
It's the only one. I've done a lot of searching for it, and yeah, that's the only one that I ended up stumbling upon, is that.
I'd love to pick your brain on the parts you did later for the power source portion, connecting the heat supply to the timer.
Yeah, I don't have a timer. I just have the contactors, and
Okay.
And I turned it, instead of 2 zones, I turned it into 3 zones because I wanted to be able to vacuum form just a small 12-inch square. My table's a 2x3.
Got it.
And so I have 3 different zones that I can heat up.
That's awesome.
So you said you sell them too, like kits, Terry?
Well, I'm getting ready to. I'm just now setting up my website to sell complete kits, because you have to like go to McMaster Car and order a bunch of parts, and then some stuff from Granger, and you got to kind of go all over the place to find stuff, and then they discontinue parts, and then you're like trying to find stuff. And I just thought I'd make it easier for people to just buy a whole kit, or we could put a whole machine together for people if they wanted to. Just something, for me on the side to do and to help people.
Do you have the website set up yet, or you just working on it?
I do. It's skywaterstudios.com. Yes. And there's a tab that says vacuum tables, and it shows my machine. I'm still working on the cart, so I don't think you can actually buy anything yet. And I'm just now putting all the components, because you can buy individual parts, is what I'm planning to, all in one spot instead of having to search around for it.
Oh, did you make this map?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like the There Be Dragons map. That's super cool. I'm gonna put this in there too, so y'all can see it as well. Here we go. Cool. Yeah, trying to get stuff together, sourcing products in a global pandemic is tough.
Yeah, sure.
I've been doing a lot of that with the 3D printer, trying to hunt stuff down and get it all together. Right on.
I knew I had a bunch more questions, but I'll probably have a lot more when I finish cutting my pieces out today for the M2.
Yeah, well, feel free. We won't be doing this one next week because it's Thanksgiving.
All right.
And I'm gonna be hanging out with my mama, so I'm not gonna be here. So we're gonna be the week after though. And then if you have any questions though, you can ask in the owners group or send us a message on Facebook or direct email support@makermade.com, and then we can help you out. We'll be kind of spotty on Thursday and Friday, just so you know, just because we're in and out, hanging out with our families and stuff. We're still like kind of available, because of sales and whatnot, Black Friday stuff. But which, by the way, 10% off everything on the website, free shipping.
What?
So we'll be doing that. So we'll be available a little, but but definitely up till Wednesday. If you got questions or something about that too.
Yeah, and feel free to ask right now, because the three of us that are in here, myself, my Drew, not that Drew, the other Drew. He's not even. Where is he?
Yeah, that's an impressive shop I see there behind and Drew's.
Dale. Peyton wanted me to tell you that none of the pictures of Mr. Biggs came through. She didn't get those Mr. Biggs pics for the T-shirt. Drew, send some more Mr. Biggs pics.
Drew. Yeah, okay. The email ones did it. I'll text them to her. She sent me her stuff.
She said it didn't go through. Can you forward them?
Does she have an iPhone?
I don't know.
Okay. I'll text them to her, but I emailed, but they're pretty big because they were on my iPhone.
Okay.
So, anyways, I'll text you this afternoon, and then I'm gonna email you.
We want to do Mr. Biggs.
Okay, cool. And I'm gonna email you in a minute and get you so we can set up a meeting too. I've got something I'm mailing to y'all that I think y'all like. I'm laser cutting some
if you want. Yeah. For the week after.
Yeah, I'm laser cutting some Maker Made Christmas ornaments for y'all.
Oh, sweet.
It's gonna be clear with blue acrylic. Y'all have some fun. So some else to y'all this week.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah. Gary, so a little backstory is we have roosters at the shop, and we can give you all a walkthrough later, but I don't want to take your all's time right now. But like that's only the machine shop side that he's standing in. There's a wood shop behind him, and all the Maker Made stuff is in the third build. Oh, Drew's just gonna walk through while I'm talking. That's our safety officer on the wall. He didn't do a very good job that day. He kind of we lost Rodney. That's the machine shop. Through that door that he's about to go through, past the plasma tables, the wood shop, and then the Maker Made room and the other things. To his left is a 3D printing room. Up there on the top is what we call laser landing. That's where all the lasers and the art room is. I'm actually behind that laser right now. And then in the front is it's not a co-working space, it's our community. It's the people that we work with. They have their own spaces, offices, a lot of the companies that we build products for, we work with, marketing team, production team, all the people we do stage work with, events, props for, they all have offices through that white door right there, and upstairs. And then we have a retail store where we're going to be selling like Christmas stuff out of and whatever. That's in the other door over there. And the story about Mr. Biggs is we have roosters at our shop, and Mr. Biggs was in Drew's arms one day, and Peyton took a screenshot of it and used it for her avatar for Zoom. So now she's going to make t-shirts out of Mr. Biggs. He's Drew. Mr. Biggs is down by the coop. They're all hiding because I put Adam and Jamie were fighting. So I put Adam in the coop and separated them. So Mr. Biggs is hanging down there in the corner,
keeping everybody together.
Yeah, Adam and Jamie were having a quarrel. They were splitting up the show.
Drew just walks over with like a cutoff shirt, like smoking a cigar and holding on to Mr. Biggs like this, just hanging out. And we're like, that's awesome. What is going on?
I'm giving up like we're out. It gets so to save electricity. It's 105 degrees. I'm out in the warehouse. The difference is when it's cold, I'll have shoes and shorts on and a shirt. And when it's 105 degrees, I'll basically be in my underwear, and that's it. And we've had, and they really like, Drew, we have clients coming over. You got to put clothes on. Come on.
So do you guys sublease your space to those other companies?
No.
We have some. We have some offices that we're subleasing, like 6 or 7 offices that have like their own. We've got a lot of space. I really want to get the shop going. I'm going to email you on that stuff because I really want to get the retail stuff. It sounds like, Terry, you're doing some stuff too. And it'd be cool to see because it'd be cool to get I know they're going to have a whole the next thing's gonna be they're setting up another one that's gonna be like all the people getting together doing what do we call it? Talking about
we
you know what I mean?
told them.
I'm
We
gonna
told
come
them.
visit y'all
Yeah.
when we get on the other side of COVID and we can
Do it.
travel and like I want to come visit y'all. San Antonio is not too far from us. I mean, that's like a day's drive. So
Yeah.
I want to come down and hang out and like stay in an Airbnb and chill with Mr. Biggs and y'all.
Crash the office. I have a shower. I put a shower at the office. See all those pallets stacked up over there?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see them.
You can't
Yeah,
see
so
it.
I
It's-
took a bunch of pallets we had. I made a shower with a shower room. Then I bought a camping shower and a propane tank and put it out there.
I'll just camp then. I'll just bring my tent. We'll just set up.
It's funny.
Yes, so Terry, if you have questions, just go ahead, man. Like Mike,
Yeah, we're
Drew,
just-
and I are on here all the time. We're just here to help and just crack it up. So if you have questions, go for it. We don't need to ask questions.
Yeah,
today.
Drew and Dan,
I think we're gonna start doing the Friday thing,
We're
right?
just here to
Friday,
help
what's up?
and talk to people about stuff. Sarah, hey, Sarah, do you got any questions? Can I help you out with anything?
Oh, Sarah's back.
Well, let's see. I don't know if I have any questions. What I wanted to say is I'm very excited that I put on the plexiglass thing on top of the on the shed on the sled, and
Like
what a
the
game
hole,
changer when
like
it came
over
to
the-
dust. Yeah,
Dust collection plexiglass. Yeah.
that was like something that should just be there by default. It was so amazing.
We're gonna toss those in all of them. Yeah, so we're gonna put those little like we're getting them all laser cut, and then the new shipment that came, we're just gonna throw that in all of them and change the guide and have that in there. Because yeah, I tested it on mine too, and yeah, it saves a lot of dust like when it's cutting out stuff.
Holy schmoly!
As that beta version.
Oh, it was just, I was totally impressed with how easy it was to make and what the change meant for, because I have the setup in my kitchen. And so.
I mean, yeah, I've got 3D printers next to mine too. So yeah, it helps to have that dust collection when it's going. So
Which piece is that you're talking about? Because my clear piece that comes in the middle of the sled, mine came broken in half.
It's new. It's new. It's a little thing that goes and it wraps around like the bit. It has a hole in it for the bit to go for the collet to go through, and it sits right on top in the center.
So you can just go to Home Depot or any place and get a sheet of acrylic and just cut it down to fit inside such, and then make sure that your bit will go inside a circle hole. And then when you put your vacuum on it, the attachment, it really sucks up
Oh
a
yeah.
lot more dust
Yeah,
until I can figure out how to get my feeds and speeds so that I'm getting, clips instead of just huge amounts of dust everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. That should be standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll send them to you. Like what we're thinking about doing is posting them and then saying like who wants one and like shipping it to everybody that wants one. So and have the file so you can cut it out if you have the ability to cut it out. But then yeah, just like shipping them to everybody is something that we've been talking about too, because it's just a nice little like dust collection saver. So
Absolutely.
and those little weird fixes, that's what we love to hear about, stuff like that from the community, because that came from somebody that was just tinkering around with it and was like, what if we kind of made this hole a lot smaller so the dust wouldn't splatter? And yeah.
I do have a question, I guess. The other, as I bling out my machine, I have the little stand, the little holder in the middle to put the sled up when I'm not using it. Then on the two ends, because of the way the chain goes around the motors, there can be slippage. So I did
You have a Maslow, right? You have the original Maslow, I think, right?
No, I don't. I have the M2.
Okay.
I built the Maslow frame because I got confused with what is Maslow versus M2. But I got the July Maslow. But regardless, you know how the motors, when you have the chains going over them, you'll get a lot of, you'll get a lot of that, almost like a slippage because of the way the
There's a
chain.
3D project.
What?
There's a 3D project on the group. Somebody put it out there. I think they actually put it on Thingiverse and on the Maker Made Market. It's a little chain guide. It's kind of like an idler guide. It looks like basically what would be inside of a motorcycle transmission, or inside of like a timing chain on a car. It's a little plastic. You 3D print it. It's got a pin and a little channel that it goes into. So preloads the backside so that it can't do what you're doing.
I got
You
that.
did that?
And the only thing that seems to matter with all of that plastic is the little pin that goes in there. The rest of it doesn't seem to do anything. And it doesn't really keep the chain inside. You know how it has that kind of cut out as if the chain's going to stay there and be really nice and robust?
Is it this? If I post it right here on the group, is that Thingiverse link? Is that what your was? The Maslow CNC chain guide?
Let's see.
Yes, that's it. That's one of them. There's another version that like you made a flat back and whatever, but yes, that's it.
So I tried the different ones, and this one's the best. But so that red thing, the pin, that's like totally helpful because it'll keep the chain kind of close to the motor. But it has in the purple where it looks like it's guiding the chain through that, you know, on the negative Y. That doesn't seem to help at all. So it's kind of as if an evolution. What would be cool, Drew, is if you played around with that, or somebody improved on the design, or maybe we can just say that the only thing that's really needed is this, the little red thing. And
yeah, I've seen some people that have just put a spacer there to like kind of hold that on there. And like, do you have that, Dale, on your frames?
No. So what happened? So I also collect cars, and I'm working on a lot of car projects with friends. And one of my friends that rebuilds a lot of BMWs just posted on my. I actually shared that like last week or earlier this week. That link right there. And one of my friends immediately commented and was like, "Hey, what about the BMW chain guides, timing chain guides?" I'm like, oh yeah, because that's what they're for. They actually, and they have a full channel, and they're meant to hold on to something that's going between 600 and 10,000 RPMs, right? So
just a little bit faster.
Yeah, but they have, because it's the V engine, they have one for each side in different directions. So he's supposed to get me the part number for that, and I'm going to test it.
Oh.
I don't know, but it's an already made thing. You can just go to a parts store and get it. I'm waiting for him to give me the part number for it so I can find it.
Is it called the timing chain guide rail?
Timing chain guide rail on a like.
Yeah, it's like kind of got a bar on top and a little triangle on the bottom. Then like a channel that it can go through.
Yes.
Yeah, and it looks like it even has some spots where you could put through like the spacers to kind of hold it down.
Yeah, if you guys could share whatever you're doing on Facebook, because you know I'm now looking at game changers that make life easier when I'm doing these cuts, and like that's the second area, which is how the chain actually hits. And you know how you have adding on to that, you know, the cotter pins. So on the end of the cotter pins, the chain can, depending on where your cotter pin is, your chain can be kind of off from.
Do you have the flat edge of the cotter pin up against the bearing carriage mount, or the rounded edge?
Yeah, you're cutting out for me, but so I missed that. But I'm sorry.
Do you have the end against the bearing carriage, so it's like flat on flat, or is it the rounded end against it?
I have the flat on flat.
Okay. Well, we've looked at some other stuff to try to do like S hooks and some things like that. Like some of the older Maslow had that, but the cotter pin just I
love the cotter pin. My point being,
way and the best way that we found.
Yeah, I love the cotter pin actually, but for that reason. But the interesting thing I'm trying to say again is, what does it mean for the chain to come around a motor and get to the router in the most perfect track way? If I was a little engine on that guy and I'm twisting around on, I'm kind of whoa,
So these right here, that's what these brackets are for too. So you can adjust these up and down. So for your material, you can adjust these up and down and get it set exactly where you want. Because if you have like a really thin material, really thick material, you want to make sure that these chain guides, they're lined up with the same plane as your motor. So that's why we have this bar where you can move it up and down depending on how thick it is, to help those little things. So it won't kind of move to the side or like wiggle or be like pulling up like this and getting off the track or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Good point. I forgot. I think you went through that on your install video, which was very good.
Yeah.
But so
Yeah,
the other,
that too.
that's a cool thing. The other thing I thought was interesting, somebody posted a Rockler desk that had this like fold out that like, I thought, it'd be nice. It would be interesting to make that kind of erector set frame to do a larger prints on it. But that's just right now an exploratory, but.
Yeah, the metal frames, those are cool. I've seen some people that have put those together to help with like squareness and get them all set. And that's why those like, the important measurements, like the 15-degree angle and at least 18 inches for your motor offset.
Yeah.
Those big things, those big steps, then can allow you to make kind of whatever modifications and things that you want to on your board. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Hal, we should throw in those constraints and like that Fusion 360 generative design and see what Fusion 360 decides is the right frame. That'd be hilarious.
Oh yeah, to see like the organic design, like yeah.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, oh, we need 15 degrees. We need it 10 feet. Okay, computer. That generative design thing they have.
Yeah, so if I want to get your guys' brains spinning, we're trying to think about ways that we don't have to use a top beam anymore. That we can try to figure out ways that we don't need, because you don't necessarily need the top beam. You really just need the distance and the chain. So
tested design, right? Something similar to that.
Yeah, like goes up. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to think, because just to make setup easier.
I was
maybe they're just like mounted brackets. Maybe we get rid of this and it's just like a bracket that has the motor on top, and then the bottom is where the wasteboard goes, and then that's set, and then it's almost a lot of this stuff could be pre-calculated and pre-calibrated too. So those are things that we've been thinking about.
Yeah, when I put my machine together, I spent hours staring at the top beam and looking at the new brackets that come with it and thinking, this really doesn't need to be.
1 second, the FedEx guy just came to my door. I gotta go run and get FedEx. I'll be right back.
Live action. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Getting rid of that, making it, hell, you can make it decorative. There's people in the group that are making like metal ones. People are using strut bars. People are using metal brackets. I don't know, angle iron.
I'm gonna use beer bottles, lots of beer bottles.
I've noticed that, but you keep getting different haircuts.
No, that's
because I was looking at that, the top beam going across, and my shop, the walls are wood, so I wouldn't have a problem mounting a bracket on there. But that's the thing that would have to be a consideration is you have to mount to the studs, in the wall, and the spacing of those are always a little different. And then you end up mounting, okay, well, let me mount a piece of plywood in between the studs, and then it's just easier just to throw a 2x10 across, and
right, yeah, exactly. And then we're doing the same thing. Yeah, we're just trying to think of ways that you can keep that 15-degree angle and get the distance correct, and like how that would work and how that would mount, and what type of bracket system that would be. So that's kind of the stuff that we're exploring now, just to try to make setup easier, because the top beam is just kind of there as a necessity a little bit, just to make sure that it's level and your motors are level. So
so my question is the whole thing about M2 based because it's a chain thing and like everything revolves around the chain, or are you a CNC machine and we could just start thinking about XYZ a la the way other CNC machines, and printers work, such
the
that
same way your 3D printer works, just bigger.
Yeah.
Yes, X, Y, and Z. Yeah. So the changes allow you to where you don't have to have limit switches. So you're not like most CNCs are like a tabletop where you have like limit switches where it'll zero itself out, and then it knows, okay, when I move over here, I'm 20 millimeters up this way and 30 this way, so I know exactly where I am. Well, the chains and all the calibration and all that is to give you an open-ended design for like a fraction of the cost. Because to get a CNC machine that can cut like plywood this big, it's like 70 grand. Like they're really expensive. There's some that are cheaper, but most of them are like super expensive. So this is the like DIY version of that. In the same way that like desktop 3D printers are, you know, around $1,000 or less. And those can, you know, they used to be 30, 40, 50, 150,000. But the price has gone down to them being more desktop. So this is kind of like that desktop industrial.
What you're saying then to me,
for less, but it's more DIY because of that.
what you're saying to me then is the only way to get a sub 1,000 price point is to base it on chains.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like we're to get around the price point that we want to get around, you have to go and we would like to try to not have to do the chains, but the chains are just the most efficient way to move it around. I wasn't, so, I mean, I've only been working here since the summer, and my background is in CNC, or is in 3D printing. So
Right.
I'm new to CNC. My main CNC has started this summer is when I dived into it. So I don't know all the details or all the math behind it, like Chris does, or like Barr, the original designer of Maslow, like they do. But their main goal was to come up with a DIY, build it yourself CNC machine that you could do huge projects on
Right.
without breaking the bank. And the chains are kind of how that became like a way that you could calibrate the distances in your chains to just be able to make it wherever you want. So if you want to do a small thing, like you could use the chains on like a desktop even if you wanted to, or you could put it on the side of a semi, you know, and you're really only limited by like the chains and your calibration.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I don't understand is, did these guys start because they were like physics and like kinematics, and then said, oh, kinematics plus chain slack, versus coming from a person that made a 3D printer and said, oh, this is just like the same thing as a 3D printer, only it can cut fingers off instead of
except it's got a spinning death wheel on it. You have to be a little more careful for sure. And that's the thing with just making it to where it's safe, and you're not, and having it against a wall or a frame, that means it's not exposed in a different area where the spinning bits are against a wall. But I know that when Barr was talking about it, and there's a really good tested about it too. If you YouTube like Maslow CNC, it'll come up with the tested video where he talks about the history of it.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so they just wanted to do projects and make projects and work on stuff. And then they got to talking to Chris and Patrick at Maker Made, and Barr just didn't have enough time to work on a lot of his projects and his types of things, and he was looking for more resellers. And there's a couple other resellers of the Maslow too, like the metal Maslow and some stuff like that. And he was just talking to Patrick and Chris, and they decided like, yeah, we can take it on, and then and kind of keep selling it, because it's been popular, and keep selling that original Maslow design. And then through just selling that Maslow and working with the Maslow community and building upon it, that's with like the community building is where the M2 came from. So it's like higher speeds and the Z-axis assembly and stuff like that, just to make it easier. So it's just kind of built on all the expertise and awesome community that started with Barr and Maslow.
Well, that's what
Maslow forums. He's still around, so we're working with them.
Drew me to it. I have a small small studio, and I'm going to build a bigger one and actually turn it into a maker space, for people to come and work on, projects as they need. That's my end goal. But I was looking at cncparts.com to build a 4x8 machine, and then because of space reasons right now, I thought, well, this is a good opportunity for me to use something that's a little more cost efficient. And actually the big thing is space for me right now.
Because it's against the wall. You don't have a whole table that's out.
Right.
Like, it's the only one that's wall mounted. There isn't another one that mounts on a wall.
Yeah, and that was huge for me. And I don't do real precision parts. I do props and sets and stuff. So I don't really, I'm not looking at, high precision. But as I'm putting it together, I was a little frustrated because like I said at the beginning, I got an M2, but I don't have any directions for it. And I'm trying to find videos, and the videos are like for the old version. And then I got confused with ground control and web control, and I have a Mac, and I can't use some of that stuff with the Mac. And I was just bouncing all over the place on what am I really supposed to use. And then I keep thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, I'm only paying $1,000, under for a CNC table. And I have to keep in mind, this is a community-based effort, and that's why, it's cost effective. So it's not from a big corporation, that's reaping in the profits, from this machine. And, I think for people like me and other people that are starting out, I think it's a great opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, we're trying to keep up with everything and keep it going. And did you get yours on Amazon?
Probably, yeah.
So we had some problems with Amazon, and it didn't have the right links and stuff like that. And that's probably why you ended up on the Maslow forum instead of the M2 stuff, because we've had some issues like that before. So we've tried to get that solved now. Just disconnects in the stuff that's been happening with Amazon. So yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through all that. But yeah, it's just the way that it's a kit, so it uses gravity in the chain. So that's why the bricks are there too. So the bricks hold it down, and then the chains move it around, and then it doesn't take up space because it's on a wall. So yeah.
What is the?
I'm glad you guys like it.
I'm confused with people using Raspberry Pi. Are they using that as a controller or as a substitute for the Arduino?
So that is a supplement to it. Yeah. So it goes on top of it. So you can send your projects to it, and then you don't have to have it connected to your computer. So that's a thing that we've been working on too, is a way that you could attach a Raspberry Pi to it, and then you could send your cut to it wirelessly, and then that would run your M2 through a web browser interface. So then you wouldn't have to have the wire connected to your computer. It would be connected to the Raspberry Pi, and then the Pi would be wirelessly running your CNC. So that's what the Pi is like, in addition to that.
Well, that seems a little scary, just the fact that as I was setting my machine up, I was doing the calibration process, and I was on step 5 of 7. And I moved the machine to the next point, and I go, I'm going to go around and grab a coffee real quick. As soon as I left the room, the cable got wound up on the motor and ripped everything out, and I had to start from scratch, again.
Yeah, you always got to set home first. It's kind of like a fake home, so you can kind of move it around and stuff like that. So yeah. Well, thanks for sticking with it. I mean, it is hard. Like for me, it's part of the fun of like getting frustrated and playing with it. It's kind of part of the fun, because it's like, why won't this robot do what I want? Oh, it's me. It's my fault. So
yeah. Well, that was a lot. And if there's a positive to all that, I've really learned the machine and how it works, and why, as I get into it, I'm realizing, okay, I see what it's doing now, because I screwed up and did something that I shouldn't have, and that's why it's not going in the right spot. So it really helps you dive in and learn
how it works.
what you're doing.
Cool. Yeah. Well, guys, I've got another meeting that I've got to jump into, but it's been awesome hanging out. If you guys want to hang out the Thursday after Thanksgiving, we'll be doing this one again. We're going to skip the Thanksgiving one. And then also we're going to start on doing Friday hangouts in the afternoons on Friday too. So we'll start doing that as well. We can talk projects and hang out and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to join this Thursday or that Friday, the first week of December. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Happy cutting. And if you need anything, like I said, message us on Facebook or send us an email, support@MakerMade, and we'll get you going.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, y'all. Have a good one.
Okay,
See ya.
bye-bye.